Welcome to the Heal Podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Gores, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Welcome to the Heal Podcast. I am so excited about today's guest, a dear friend of mine who I have not seen in far too long. Her name is Andrea Quinn. She is a best-selling author, a motivational speaker, a certified business and life coach of some of the most powerful people in the world. She is a big part of how I have manifested such a wonderful life that I live today and have been able to have the empowerment to accomplish some of my dreams. So I'm excited to share her program and her book, the Quinn Essentials for Women, which are 9 transformational tools to accomplish anything, and they're beyond practical and beyond magical. So welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you. It's so good to see you, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You've been so patient. Your book came out last year while, simultaneously, I was taking a break because I was burnt out. And
we were also in COVID.
We were like residual COVID. It was so weird. People were like, mask, no mask. What do we do?
I know.
So, but we're here now in divine timing. And I just know that my audience is ripe for this because so many people are struggling right now. It's a weird time in history. Lot of mental health stuff happening, and I know that just friends of mine are going through. I just feel like there's a lot of relationship upheaval right now, and people are just in general are feeling kind of lost. And your 9 transformational tools, especially for women, you work with men too, can change lives and really set us, launch us into the trajectory of our dreams. And you give us all the tools to accomplish those dreams. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to do this work.
Well, it's kind of like, like I say in my book, I was #lost and #mess. And I had to figure out who I was, right? So as I began my studying on my spirituality, as well as, how to navigate the world through being a woman, being a sensitive woman, that it was important for me to learn tools to support myself. And as it started working for me, I just had the instinct that I had to share. I had to share with other women. And so it's been 15 years now that I've been teaching them. And I've been fortunate to have thousands of women worldwide who have used these tools and have utilized them. And ever since what we've been through in the last 3 years, they are more important than ever, that we have a foundation that we can build and rebuild our lives on, because we're all rebuilding, and we're learning. You find that more people are even more spiritual than they used to be. And people have always told me that I teach practical magic.
Yes.
And it really is, these are magical. They are energetic, but they're practical, so you can actually utilize them in a step-by-step process while you're energetically aligning with creating magic in your life. And I think that that's how I am able to articulate.
Practical magic is genius, because I saw the movie The Secret, and I applied some of the practices I learned in there, especially around gratitude and acting as if I had what I already wanted. And that was very effective for me for a period, and then you got to expand, because that gets rusty or whatever. But it's, a lot of people, a lot of friends that are just a different human design. They're not as woo-woo. They're not as, airy-fairy creative as I am, or whatever their thing is. It didn't resonate with them as it did with me. So I'm like a journaler, gratitude journaling works for me. I manifested some crazy stuff where I was like, oh my gosh, this really works. But like you said, they're so practical, what you teach, and it can be applied for anybody, any kind of human design.
Anybody. And it's so funny, because I have women from all walks of life, all ages, all religions, all backgrounds, and these tools apply to them.
Yeah.
And even if you don't identify as a woman, it works for you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm really grateful for.
It's amazing too, because you talk about in your book, you're so honest. You're like, I was lost. I was a mess. I'm on my third marriage. I was like figuring out, and a lot of people, you were always telling people how to help themselves growing up, but you couldn't really help. And I find that with everybody, even like my intuitive friends, they can't read themselves. That's just the way the world works, so that we are constantly in community, right?
Right.
Get other assistants to help us and reflect back to us, to our blind spots or whatever. So that's like, it's, so many people come on, like therapists or whatever, present themselves to the world like they've got it all figured out, or not, but you're so vulnerable, and you're like, I learned these tools to finally sit with myself and go, how can I not continue to make the same mistakes?
Right, because when you're young and you're on your third marriage already, and you've been through personal bankruptcy at 20 years old before you could legally drink, and you've done all these things, there's a common denominator with all of this, and it's you, and it's important to understand that if we're the ones that can mess it up, we're the ones that can fix it. And that's power, knowing that it doesn't matter, and it's not, and what I've learned too, it's not about getting what you want. You'll get what you are. And when you stand in the truth of who you really are, that's when the magic starts showing up. Because the fraud, we're all frauds. Anybody who's walking around less than, anybody who's walking around not understanding who they are as a magical being within themselves, is walking around pretending to be this person that they're really not. Now, things have happened to them. And you've heard that saying, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us. And our responding can re-empower us. As long as we can recalibrate, that's all that matters. We all get thrown. We all do. But it's the recalibration process. It's the tools that you can stand on. Once you just utilize your tools, you're like, oh, I'm back.
Yes.
And that's the power of this work.
And this is the intelligence of the universe. I took your course, and I think back when we did it, it was over 9 months.
Yes.
Almost like a rebirth of the self.
Correct.
And it was amazing. And we met with this incredible group of very diverse women from all walks of life, all careers. And the support was amazing. We were just in this like womb of rebirth together. And support is a big part of this, program.
Yes.
But as I was preparing for this interview, it's been, 10 years?
Yes.
About.
So
it's like at this time and where I'm like searching for tools, and I've got meditation, I've got the specific tools that I had to relearn in preparation for this interview are like, oh my gosh, I feel so empowered. I'm so excited. Like, thank you for coming on today, because you're really like helping get me back on track.
Oh, well, it's so funny. Women take it over and over.
Yeah, we need to.
I've had women who've taken my workshop 5 times.
Yeah.
And each time they accomplish something new.
Mm-hmm.
And so that for me shows that this toolkit is something that you can utilize and have the rest of your life. And just knowing that, for me, just feels like, wow, I can just leave this with a woman and she's got it. Like, she's got her own back. And that makes me happy.
It's like you're giving us an excavation, the tools to excavate to get to our true selves. And then once we have our desires for a reason. There's a calling in our heart. There's a soul. But there's so much muddling from our trauma and our personality and our life and this drama. And you give us the chisels that gets us down to, who am I? What is my truth? What are my requirements? And those are the tools. So the tools aren't just like, here are some action steps to get to your goals. It's like, no, here's what is going to uncover who you really are, and how to set boundaries, and how to ask for help, and how to use language in order to get the assistance from the universe and from community to help you accomplish the dreams that are meant for you because they're in your heart.
Correct. Yes, that's true.
So let's talk about, I'd love for you just to kind of give an overview of kind of your program, and if you want to say how did you channel it? Did it come over time? The 9 tools, and then I'm going to dive into a couple that I think I want to give people a little taste, so that they're like, dude, I need this book.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, it's a curriculum.
Okay.
Right. And I did get it in meditation and prayer. That was how it came to me. And it came so in order and so cyclical that I was almost like, by the time it was done, I was like, how did this happen? And I thought immediately, well, it must have come from all the studying I've done, because I've studied so much. I always tell everybody, I've studied every ology.
Yeah.
Every ality and ology, spirituality, psychology, you name it, theology, astrology, every ology.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I've really studied because I was seeking and I was so lost, right? So this curriculum is an empowerment curriculum. So it's based on 9 tools. And the first 4 is everything in your life I believe you need to align with on the inside as a woman and put out in the world. And then the second 4 is everything I believe you need to do out in the world and then bring that back to you. And then the last one ties it all together. So it's inside out, outside in, a balanced woman. And when we're balanced, we are unstoppable. It's when we're thrown and we're off balance, unless we have the tools to ground us again, we spend an enormous amount of time in either emotional or spiritual pain.
Yes.
And I have a very low tolerance for pain. I'm not really good at it. So I created this toolkit so that it could actually support me as I was growing and moving forward in my life.
And as time has sped up and we've lost these, 2 years of our existence and all this, you've evolved your curriculum to, you offer programs that people can do this in a weekend?
It's a 2-day workshop.
Okay.
And I'm so excited about that. And so some of the women are so funny because they've done it for 9 months and they come back and there's like, how can I do it in 2 days? I don't know if I'm going to like that. And they come in 2 days, they're like, oh my God, I love it. Because we all have learned to pivot.
Yeah.
And so I use these tools myself on a daily basis.
So can you give us an overview of, I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing
Yes,
all 9 or, just.
Well, I can talk about them in the order. So
Perfect.
If you're looking at your inner life, right, as a woman, first of all, you must learn how to receive. You have to be a receiver. And that really is the beginning of everything for me, because if you can't receive it, it's not coming. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. All the doing in the world is why women are tired. So we can cover that a little bit more after I go through this. So the receiving, I am your soul made visible, and knowing what your soul is versus your personality. Mm-hmm. Listening, and not only listening to others, but listening to yourself and what you require and how to get to what a requirement is versus a need. Women know what they need, but when you know what you need, you're in lack already. So, but if you can require, it's a different ballgame, right? And then self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is, here's where I'm magnificent and I can actually own it. I can own the gifts I have. And the old definition of self-acceptance, well, the good and the bad. I don't like the bad. I don't want to talk about the bad.
We don't need to talk about the bad here.
No, because guess what? The only way I'm going to get the life I want is through the good. So what am I good at? And how do I do more of that?
And our minds are, evolution or programming or whatever, that we're programmed to go to the negative. We do that on autopilot, default, way too much. So let's consciously take the reins back and focus on the good. And you give us, we don't ever take the time to go and look and appreciate our gifts and our pluses, our positives.
And and actually, it's not, it's not BS. It's the truth. All the things you're good at, it's truthful. You're really good at it. And so using those as the principles for your life, that's a whole different ballgame for women. Because the truth is, nothing's wrong with you. You're not really broken. That list is an illusion of the ego. Of, if I can just improve this list, I'm going to get better. Mm-hmm. It's not. We're chasing that same thing over and over in your life, right? So those 4 tools are the ones inside that I believe you need to align with. And I go, as you know, very deep into all 4 of those. Mm-hmm. And then the second 4 is everything out in the world. And more important than ever, especially for the last 2.5 years, we've been connecting, first and foremost. We have lost connection. And I tell everybody, especially younger women, all those friends on Facebook, they're not really your friends. They're not really your friends. And connecting and cultivating relationships is paramount, right? And then asking. Women do not want to ask. We feel like we're burdening people.
Or we feel like we expect ourselves to be able to do it all.
Right. Or we want to get it all together before we ask, so you don't think some bad things about us.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and the tools to asking and what that's really about, right? I mean, because that is very important. And then we look at visualizing and how important it is to be able to see it. But the way I teach it, it's actually an outer thing, as you know, and we'll talk about that. And you did that basically with your documentary and your daughter, and we talk about visualizing and how I don't believe you keep them to yourself, right? And so, and then empowering your word. You know, you're living the life you're talking about. And are you talking about yourself and your life with honor and dignity? Do you know how to speak about yourself without feeling bad that you're an amazing woman? Like, we're not taught to do that. We're taught to, aw shucks, and I don't know, and no. And, you know, if people are afraid of you because you're so powerful as a woman, they're not your people anyway. So we'll talk about that too, because that's another tool that you love. And then, so after you've done all your inner work and then your outer work of those other 4 tools, right? You're connecting, you're asking, you're visualizing, and sharing it, and also empowering your word and how you're speaking. The last one ties them both together, which is you have to be willing to let go. You have to let go. You have to release your hold on what you think and begin to be in a creative process and a co-creative process with the universe.
Yes.
The universe has it much better for you than you think you do.
Correct. Don't
right?
limit yourself.
Oh my gosh. Because our minds are so limiting. We limit ourselves. We're just like, oh, yeah, I just want this. And if I have this, and the universe is like, I'm not giving you that because I want you to have this. And so if you can understand that everything about you is really the co-creative process with the universe or the divine or whatever you want to call it, source or God or whatever it is for you, then you have this incredible partnership. And then that letting go, because really the control is all fear.
Yeah.
And so it's about how to move through that as well. So that's the nine Quinn Essentials and how to navigate. But each of them, I believe, are delivered differently than people have ever done it before.
Correct.
Yeah.
So effective. I worked with you privately before I took the curriculum over 9 months with this wonderful group of ladies. And I have to say, my whole life I identified as a guy's girl. Like, I loved sports.
Yeah.
You know, I played 3 varsity sports. I have my best friend. I've been best friends with since we were 10 years old. And I have a very close group of girlfriends that I've known since I was in kindergarten. And they're still my best friends today. But I still always identify, like, I get along with guys. I just, whatever that was my identification. And it was hard for me to meet friends in college because I had such a tight-knit group at home or whatever. But I got easy to make guy friends in college. So when I took your curriculum with that group of women, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been looking at this all wrong. And maybe it might have been my, for sure, like insecurity or whatever, but it might have been my, upbringing in the acting world. And so I developed this subconscious belief that other women were my competition because I had to earn the role and beat them out, whether she was brunette, tall, old, whatever.
Right.
I don't know if that's what it was. I'm trying to figure it out. But when I joined that group of women and what you have us do together and voice these things out loud and practice these new things where we have to stand in our I ams and say what we want and ask for support and proclaim our requirements and even just do the self-reflection in group to discover what those are. We don't have the tools to even self-reflect half the time. So I think it was you made me a girl's girl where I was like, hell yeah, we need to support each other. And when 2 or more are gathered, we are powerful mofos.
Yes. And it's so funny that you say that because I've had so many women who've told me I never liked women until I took this.
Yeah.
Because guess what? They saw who they were. See, it's just all a mirror.
Yeah.
You saw your magnificence And you saw it you saw you in them. And then it becomes this, oh. And when we do that together, you know, it's just, we're magical. And this is why they would separate us. And this is why they burned us. They didn't want us together.
Yeah.
Around the cauldron. I'll tell you that much.
Wrote us out a certain testament.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Let's not go there.
Different conversation, different day. So let's just touch on a couple things from each, you know, tool. Like first, just so you can put it in context where people are going to want to learn more, because when you put it, it's like learn to receive. Like, oh yeah, of course, we always want to give. It's so hard for us to receive a compliment. Like everybody gets that listening to it. But when you do the archetype, like females, we were designed to receive.
Correct.
In order to create. Receive this to create life.
Correct.
So, and then talk to us about, you know, in contrast to the masculine archetype or the whatever. So you articulate way better than I do.
You did it fantastic. In receiving, you know, women put out too much without bringing it to them first. And as the receiver, your job, I really believe that women across the board are only here for one reason and one reason only: to receive, to create. Everything is the female creative process. Everything. And when we are in doing, we are out of alignment with the truth of who we are. We are receptive. And it's not about, sexual preference. If you are a female, you have a body and a DNA that is coded to receive first before you give. And sometimes women, especially powerful women, they just look at me and they're like, I don't even understand this. I'm like, you will. And then they start going, oh. Like, you receive inspiration, create stories, receive guidance, create a healing practice. You received inspiration, created the documentary. Everything is receptive to us. But the doing comes in, let me get everything else, quote unquote, done for everyone else, and then I'll have time for me. And I always say, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
I'm exhausted, and I have 7 mystery illnesses, and
yes,
stressed out and burnt out.
And we know
depressed.
that. Women know that. They know that very well. But they don't know how to receive. And I have women that are single mothers of 4 children that have said this has turned their lives around. Because they think, oh, I've got to give. Oh, no. You have to receive so that your children understand how to support you so they don't see their mother falling apart in front of them. And it's important that powerful women keep showing up. But no one taught us this. No one taught us. They said to us, the more you do, the more they'll love you. And that's just not simply true.
This is your responsibility.
Yeah, this is your responsibility. Now, we can have responsibility, but it's different when you take that in-breath first. Instead of going, what do I got to do to fix this problem? It's like, where can I receive support around this right now? Where's the first person I could receive support from? Where's the first place I could receive community? Where could I receive? How could I receive? When you ask those kind of questions, you can feel the energy coming to you instead of putting it out first. And that is just not who we are as the divine creators. See, you're a receptive creator. And if you don't treat yourself like that, no one else is going to. You know, we teach people how to treat us. So we've taught them, we'll do everything for you, don't worry about it. And then we're wondering why we're mad at them for expecting us to do it that way. So, and you can turn it around. I've had people turn around relationships. I had women who've called me and have turned around 35-year marriages that had it a certain way. And they just were like, wait a minute, I'm shifting my life. And don't forget, when you shift, everyone around you shifts, right? But the problem is you have to communicate it. You have to say to them, I'm shifting, and I would love to receive you shifting with me. I would love to receive you shifting with me. So all of a sudden the energy's coming. And it's so interesting because we are coded in our DNA to do this. But women aren't taught this.
One quick success story, maybe the Hollywood woman or something.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a woman who is Academy Award winning, top director, producer, head of film companies, former president of film companies. Like, she really earned her stripes, and she was in the 9-month class, and she went away the first, and she was like, please, like, whatever. She didn't know who I am, right?
Yeah.
And so then she went, and she had this whole boardroom of investors coming. She was one of the only females, and she was expected to fix this movie it wasn't going to work, and she's expected to fix it. So she knew right before she was going to go in. She said, I heard your voice tell me, put the sword down. You're the receiver. Put the sword down. So she went in, and being very clever, she said, before we get started, I would like to ask you gentlemen for some assistance, because they were finance people. And she made it seem like it was about a different project. And they gave her exactly the answer she needed. And she, oh my gosh. And she put it together. And she said, thank you so much for this. And she said she swore. She heard a whole thing full of swords just go, right? Because men are here to protect and be of service. They want to be of service. We disempower men because we try to control them. And then we start mothering them. And then that doesn't work. So, and that's a whole thing deeper in this. But the bottom line to this, and she came in the second month, I say, oh, so how did it go? And she just said, I have to say, and she's the strongest woman in that room at the time, she said, this shit works. And I was laughing so hard. And she goes, all I said is, I would love to receive your assistance with something. And she said, and for the first time in my career, I didn't have to do it alone, because they didn't care. They didn't judge me. They weren't thinking I wasn't as smart as them. They were of service. I received what I needed, and I created the solution.
Yeah.
And she said, and for the first time, I felt this power. And I was like, wow. And this is why we are the receptive creators, for us to put our power in someone else's hands. And we cannot do what the Dalai Lama said we were going to do. So you know that in 2009, he proclaimed, this world will be saved by the Western woman. And how are we supposed to save it when we're tired? And so I translate that as, this world will be saved by women, period. And so how are we supposed to do this? If we've deemed ourselves powerless, we're too tired to do it, and we're fighting all these autoimmune diseases because we're not listening to ourselves.
And we're not taught the tools that we are supposed to receive to
and
create.
how to do it, and how to actually break that. It's a habit, and I work that every day. I have to be conscious, because I'm a powerful female. And the thing that's really interesting about this isn't princess training. This is about how to step into what I believe is our true feminine power from the beginning.
And there's such an imbalance in society, as we see, of this, patriarchy, right?
Correct.
So, different philosophers or whatever, there's like this, we're entering an age where the feminine wing is going to rise and balance everything out, right?
That's
so
right.
this this is an essential part of it. This is quintessential, because what you're doing is you're giving people you're giving women awareness of their innate power
and how to do it,
and
not to,
and it's actually by doing less.
Correct. Yeah. And really receiving more, and through asking to receive, or how do I receive a solution to this? That energetically is so much more powerful than what do I gotta do? Because that is not who we really are. That throws us out of alignment. And really the truth is, you're either in alignment or you're in resistance. And there's a lot of powerful women probably right now listening going, I'm in resistance, because they don't understand that this, and like I said, I've had women from all over. I've been fortunate to coach so many top businesswomen from around the world that are presidents and CEOs and senior vice presidents, and they said, oh my God, if I would have done this, I'd already be chairman of the board. Because it's an energy. It is a knowledge of when you walk in, you are there to receive support. As a mother, you received the seed to create the child. It didn't stop there. And if you are a single parent, your job is to figure out a way to receive more support. not do more.
But again, in our cultural DNA,
Correct.
in indigenous culture, it's like the support was in the village.
And
It's built into the process of, like, a woman has a child, and all the elder women and just the community comes and supports them. It's like we were never designed to do this alone.
Correct, but we isolate during hard times instead of reach out and create community, because we have, like you said, a lot of women didn't trust other women when they were younger. They'd been hurt, they'd been burned growing up, so they're like, oh, I'm a guy's girl, or I don't trust girls, or I only have my old posse and I just don't step out of that, right? That's where you don't trust yourself. And once you trust yourself as a woman, you trust everyone else, because you know how to find your people, which is
the next one. I am, which is so powerful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get back to my I ams. Tell us about I ams. And it's like, it frees you up once you reflect and go, okay, these are my I ams. Then you don't force yourself into try to be something for somebody else, because you realize I am these things. And once I am clear on that, I will be clear on who my people are, and who, like, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a workplace, whether it's a business partner, whether it's a friend group.
Yeah.
So talk to us about I am.
Well, your I ams is just your soul made visible. And I know I say that very simply because I've done it a really long time.
Yeah.
But it isn't about, I am strong. No. I am strong is the woman. This is the soul I'm talking about. So what I ask people to do is excavate underneath. If you are strong, what's underneath your strength as a woman? And the truth is power. I am power, and it translates as a woman who is strong, resilient, forceful, whatever, determined, right? A survivor. I have some women who go, I'm a survivor. I go, well, your humanness had to survive this experience, but your soul didn't have to. What's underneath surviving? Power. So when you excavate underneath to your soul's ability, like you have your 5 I am. I have people do 5 I ams. We have more than that, of course, but
I'm like, how do I narrow it down?
I know. How do you narrow it down? Because some of these things are like, I am love. And it translates into caring women, nurturing women, right? The idea of a mother, but underneath what makes someone a great mother, I am love. Their soul is love, right? So when you resonate and you get your 5 I ams, which we work on very strongly in the book, and we excavate and we have your list, then your job is to remember that that's who you really are. And everybody that is in a relationship with you has to be on that list. Because the truth is, you're just looking for you everywhere. When you see you across from you in the eyes of someone else, you have found your people. And when you do, you're going to be magnificent. And if they're not your people, this is not for you not to judge them. This is for you to know that the two of you cannot sustain a long-term either business relationship or personal relationship. And then you don't take things so personally anymore. It's just, they're just not your people. You're not their people either. And so I know it sounds a little complicated because it's really hard to do unless we're really doing the work or reading the book. But it's about understanding that when your soul is made visible, you can navigate this world in a way that you never did before. We stopped listening to our souls, especially during COVID. People went into fear, and your soul does not do fear. Fear was between your ears.
Yeah.
And so when you really drop down and allow your soul, you're much better off with your soul leading the way than you ever are with your personality. Your personality is unreliable. I know mine is.
It's flawed too.
Oh my gosh.
But our soul, not flawed.
Not at all. So when you really can get there and know that and walk on that, your soul walks in before you do. People walk in and they say, they see my I ams the second I walk in a door, because I'm very clear what they are. My I ams are kindness, I am intelligence, I am generosity, I am sensitivity, and I am loyalty. And when I walk in, because I stand so solidly on my own foundation, people see them. And I see everyone's when they walk in. And boy, when you can let those walk in before you, your personality just can't get in the way. Your fears, your doubts, your lack of confidence, you don't, it just doesn't show up for you. And that was a really important tool for me, because I had tried to seek validation my whole life as a young woman through my family, and just tried to, what other people thought of me was more important. And now it's not anybody's business. It's my business, what I think of me.
And, oftentimes we put people on pedestals. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, Kelly, you directed this movie, that's very well known. And like, maybe they're like nervous to talk to me or whatever. And then there's, my whole list. Like, if I was like Spielberg, I'd be like, well, who am I to talk to Spielberg, So like, give just a little, taste of when we are in our IMs, we don't need to, it's all soul level. So there's nobody on a pedestal. There's nobody, it's like, and like you could walk into it. I'm just thinking as an actor, like I was always you get nervous, your heart's stressed, like you're getting a physiological reaction because you're elevating these people who have the power to give you a job and change your career or change your finances or whatever. And so you have anxiety going in and you feel less than, and you have to do something to impress them. But if I had those tools of these are my IMs, and you walk in there, you meet people not on a personality level or a title level. You're just like, okay, I'm going to go in. And you know what? If I don't get this job, our IMs are not aligning at this moment, or whatever it is.
Or you're just there to receive the opportunity to create a character.
Okay.
That was all it was. You were attached to getting a job. But the truth is, you were just there to receive the opportunity to create a character. That was step one.
Okay.
Meeting at your IMs. And then letting go, till number 9, of the result.
Yeah.
You were either going to get it or you weren't. But boy, when you can come in authentically, just there to receive the opportunity and really understand gratitude for an opportunity, you show up different. You're not nervous. You don't have anxiety, right? Yeah. So we have people that have done this. They've told me stories about, I do work a lot, of course, in Hollywood because I'm in LA. If I was in Detroit, I'd be in the car business. And I'm in New York, I'm in Wall Street. It just depends on. But I do have a lot of actors and directors and people that have seen me. And I have this one woman who I talk about that was an extra in a commercial for the American Idol at the time, where Steven Tyler and all these things, then Jennifer Lopez and Randy, those were the 3 judges at the time. And she...
all massive people.
Massive.
Yeah.
And Steven Tyler had a particular love for her because her mother... was a big Steven Tyler fan, and her mom was unfortunately passed away when she was 13. And so all of a sudden there's all these thousands of people that are extras for these commercials, and they're picking one person to be with this one particular person. And of course, she was chosen to be with Steven Tyler, and she's going, oh my God, Mom, she's looking up to heaven like, Mom, how could you do this to me? And she started panicking because she just couldn't believe she was actually going to be Steven Tyler. And so she got a hold of herself after half a day of not being herself. And she says, what is wrong with me? She goes, I'm not being my IMs. Oh my God. So she went and found him at lunch. And she went up to him and she said, excuse me, Steven? And he said, yes. And she says, I didn't ever properly introduce myself. So she did. And he says, oh, okay. And she says, and I just have one more thing to say. She says, I may not be a musician, but I meet you at your creativity. And he got up and he grabbed her hands and he said, I fucking love this. Can I say that?
You can. Yeah.
And she said, and he grabbed her head and he kissed her on the forehead. And they had the best time the rest of the day. And I said to her, what if he would have looked at you like, security?
Yeah.
She said, then he wouldn't have been my people.
Drop the mic.
Boom. That's where this is. We're all meet at our IAMs. We meet at our generosity. We meet at our light. We meet at our souls. And if you put someone up on the pedestal, that's your fault. They're no better than you. They just have a different human experience. But when you understand that your soul is greater than that, that is magic. And I've had thousands of magical stories come to me over the last 15 years of this.
I love this. Well, I'm signing. When is your next weekend? I'm signing up.
2 weekends from now, actually. Great. Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh.
I know, but I'm always, it's just, again, I see the divinity in every female. And when they see it in themselves, it's like you could like, my work here is done.
Yes,
you know?
yes. And you get glimpses and then you want more, which is why people take the class, because we have to relearn. I've been on this planet for 44 years, in 2 weeks. I don't want to age myself. But, we have these, we're not taught this at 3. Like you and I need to develop a course for, 10-year-olds to 18-year-olds or something.
Like, they always ask me to do that. Yeah.
Because we need to, I'm trying to reparent myself so that I don't screw up my child. Like we're inevitably, even if I did it perfectly, I'm going to give her exactly the lessons she needs to unpack her whole life. But all of that to say, like, yeah, you need to practice these things over and over, but you lay it out in such a simple, practical way that we can, like you said, you're the teacher of this knowledge, and you still practice every day because you slip.
I do.
We get insecure. We forget our divinity in a moment, and then you're like, no, I am
Yes.
power. I am light.
Yes.
I am kindness.
Yes.
I am generosity.
And it's just like asking. You have to not be afraid to ask. I mean, I hadn't talked to you since last year.
Yeah.
And I called and I said, hey, it's Women's History Month.
I know.
Let's do this. And you were like, okay. Like, what if I wouldn't have asked, right? I believe, because I believe we're all asking for something bigger than ourselves. For everything that a woman receives, she can help somebody else.
Yes. And which brings us to our next, and we're not going to go through all the tools, but we're going to get just a couple more, because I just want to show people how profound this is. Our next one is listening and requirements. I mean, I hear the word require, and I try to, it's still like awkward for me to use the word require, because it's so like definitive. But I think in this self-discovery of like, okay, as an archetype of a woman, I am designed to receive, to create. It just softens like the overwhelm that we're faced with in everyday life. Right. And whether you're a mother or whether you have this lofty career goal or whatever. And then you go to I am, and you give us the tools to excavate to who our soul is, and realize that, our soul is unflawed. We came in with these resonances to, they're not all the same. Like I am a seeker, someone is, I think most of ours are the same. I would replace loyalty, not that I'm not loyal, but with maybe seeker or.
Right. And I'm a seeker in different ways too.
Exactly. So all of this to say the steps that came through you, it's like you receive. So as the archetype, I understand this overarching design that I came here to live as a woman. Then you reconnect to the specific soul in your I ams, and you show us how to navigate in the world to meet people at their soul level. And you talk about the universe, we are all just facets, holographic, fractals of one verse, universe. And then the next is listen. And so we never listen to what people are really saying, and listen to what we are saying, what our needs are, what our body is telling us, what our resonance is telling us, what our heart is telling us. So talk to us about listening and requirements.
Well, listening is twofold. We have to listen to others, and then we have to listen to ourselves, right? So listening to others, women typically don't listen to other people because, number one, we haven't been heard. And number two, we are thinking while someone else is talking because we want to get what we want. So we're trying to think about how to overcome an obstacle while someone else is talking versus actually taking in what they're saying. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard this. I've heard people tell me this. You're not listening to me. Oh, yes, I am. I hear, no, you're not. Mm-hmm. And most women, if they're telling the truth, someone will say to them, you're not listening. And that's a big thing. We have to learn to listen. No one taught us to listen. So I go through these exercises where I teach you actually how to listen to someone else, right? Mm-hmm. Because we miss things. We miss very important things in life because we miss something somebody said. And then we say, well, you didn't say that. And they said, yes, I did. And then we think they were lying. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wait a minute. Did they really say that, or were you not listening? So I always have to check myself on that. Mm-hmm. The other part of listening, it's really important, is listening to myself. Women don't like to be told what to do, even if it's by yourself. I don't like what I hear sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just go the other way, like, she didn't really say that.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I thought, Kelly, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go open this bottle
Squirrel.
of wine.
It's like
squirrel.
shiny object. Yeah. So, and so the only reason women have a problem listening to ourselves is that we don't know what we require. What is my requirement? And I had to go through a lot of that when I was having my relationship with my husband, right? Because I didn't know how to have healthy relationships, love relationships, right? And so I really had to get to the point of what was always the problem. There's only a few things really that always get in our way, and we have to identify them. So I talked about my requirements, right? So it's my requirements for a love relationship. I am a very sensitive woman. I am sensitivity. And I grew up in a family where there was a lot of anger, a lot of rage. And so I was always navigating that and very sensitive to that. And so I really got that I would get into relationships with people where there would be drama and fighting, because I would be used to that. Not that my parents fought. It's just that I fought back to my father, who was very patriarchal. And I mean, he was the love of my life, but he was a very aggressive man, and I was sensitive. So it wasn't good for me. So what happened was I would get in these relationships with very powerful men. Psychology 101, right? And so then I had to learn, okay, in order for me to be in a healthy relationship, I require they don't yell at me. You can walk out on me. Don't ever yell at me. Number 2, I had to think, okay, what else bothered me about relationships? You must have a job. Me work, Sue work. I know a lot of women that don't care, right? 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 I know a lot of women that don't care if their spouses work. That's them.
Yeah.
I don't have any judgment about whether their spouses work or not. I have a judgment about mine, because I have this thing about, if I'm going to put out the energy, they have to put out the energy. So, okay, because I had paid for enough art in my day. I wasn't going to do that again. Okay, then you have to be in a relationship with my family. Like, my family is everything to me. So you had to have had a relationship with them, not just show up on holidays and leave. Like, this was, because I was going to have a relationship with his family, so I expected that as well. So you couldn't yell at me. You had to work, and you had to have a relationship with my family. I mean, seriously, that pretty much was it.
Do you always distill it down to 3, or you can do like 3 to 5?
You'll find that you don't really have more than that requirement.
Okay.
Now, there's a duh list. Like, you can't hit me. That's a duh.
Duh.
I mean,
Given.
why would you even?
Yeah.
If you have to put that on your list, we have a problem.
Order the book now, please.
Yeah, or if you have to, you cannot use my social security number without my permission. Like, there are things that we don't. There are those like things that you shouldn't even have to put.
Yeah.
But you have to look at yourself and what causes you. What do you know is a non-negotiable that if it happens, everything's going to go to shit? I mean, you really have to look at it that way. I mean, if my husband ever came to me and said, listen, there's a thing called retirement or whatever. I understand that. Yeah. But if he ever came to me and said, I woke up one morning and thought, never going to work again. I am, never going to wear shoes and never going to work again. I'm like, oh. Okay, then I would really have to take a look at this, because I would be in a very difficult position, because I know that what was about to happen was an enormous amount of disrespect that I would have for his choice, which I didn't say is right, but is my requirement. And so it's very difficult, and you have to require that these are the things that have been my triggers. And if you don't listen to yourself and understand what your triggers are, then you're really in trouble. Yeah,
and you're going to keep repeating patterns that get louder and louder and more painful and painful until you get the message, the memo.
Correct.
And this is amazing. I mean, honestly, thank you, universe, because I feel like with every kind of expansion in my life, which is happening now as well, like you just need the reminder. You need to go back to the tools. And now here you are. And I'm going to dive back into my tools because I'm like, I need these now, but I'm also ready. I'm like, my vessel has expanded. I've been doing a lot of work and I'm ready. And now I want to be ready with clarity of how to
receive whatever's next.
Yes.
Right. And that's a great question, right? I'm open to receiving what's next, even if I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But the fact that you say you're open, that cracks open energy somewhere in the universe. And the idea will come. You might be in the shower, you might be driving, but it'll drop in just like the documentary did.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Just we can touch on this a little bit because we have a tiny bit of time left. Because I do want people to see, like, what a big role you played. We were working together privately. I remember you helped me come up with the name of my production company.
Yes.
I was pivoting from, like, I felt so powerless in the acting and like things were changing in the industry. And we were working on, me like receiving and coming at acting. But at the same time, it's like, no, there was this, all of that to say that I was actually more aligned with the creative side of it and like actively like the directing and the storytelling side of it. And just remind me, we got to talk about the snippets.
Oh yeah. So in the visualizing tool, not only is it about creating your visualizations, which I give a lot of credit to Shakti Gawain and creative visualization. She was the mother of all of this, right? But what I did is I take you creating a visualization, a small one, which is why it's called a snippet, and you launch it and tell it to the people in your life so that they can say, I see this for you. And when 2 or more are gathered or 2 or more visualize, the energy is magnificent. And I can tell you that you launched the snippet of, you created this moment where you were in, I never will forget it. It was 10 years ago, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. You were sitting in a beautiful lawn, and the wind was blowing, and you had known that you had done a documentary that was going to change people's lives. You hadn't even started the documentary yet, and that you were going to have a baby. A beautiful baby that was part of your soul, and you loved this baby before she was born. And that was 10 years ago. And I can remember that, and you shared it with such clarity. It was so real. It's still real today, which is why you manifested both of those things. And I have women that have done this, that have manifested jobs that they never thought they could get. They have manifested relationships when they had manifested and made a snippet of their wedding day, and they weren't even seeing anyone. It has been one of the most incredible, magical times of my life to sit with a woman and listen to her dreams, because our dreams are sacred. And really, there's a little caveat here. Do not share these with anybody who'd be like, well, why do you want to do that? I mean, you want to share it with people that go, oh my God, I want that for you because you want it. And when you have a whole group of women sitting around sharing their dreams, we used to have snippet parties where women would come together in a circle and say, okay, I'd love you ladies to see this for me. And she would launch, and then she would launch, and then she would launch. And you have a whole group of women launching dreams versus sitting around talking how bad everything is.
Yeah. It's actively creating
in that moment in community, which is so important. And this is what we create within the Quinn Essentials as well. And I recommend that women start these communities, come together with this book, share this with your friends, do the chapter, review them together, and then start launching snippets. It's so magical. And my dream now, my next thing I'm launching is I would love to create a coffee table book where we create snippets from women from around the world, and they send us a picture, like they're in Bangladesh and they want us to see something they want to create for their lives. And then we turn the page and she's from Vietnam, and then we turn the page and she's from Idaho, and then she's from Spain, and we have a whole thing. And then maybe it'll become this movement where women support women. I don't even know yet. It's still manifesting for me, but what a beautiful book that would be, where we could look at a beautiful picture of a woman and say, I wish that for her. And when we start doing this for each other, life begins to change and manifest in the way, and then I can see how the Dalai Lama was right.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
What a great conversation. So where can people find you? Where can people get this book? Where can people sign up for a weekend?
Well, it's my book is on Amazon, Andrea the Quinn Essentials, Andrea Quinn, and it's on Audible, so they can listen to me read it to them, which is so fun. Yes, out today. And also my website is andreaquinncoaching.com, but it also has a second website, which is thequinnessentials.com. Either way, finds my workshops and where I'll be and what I'll be doing. And I have one coming up here very soon in Beverly Hills, but I do them all over the country, and I'm starting to get all over the world again. And I know digitally I was doing it during COVID, and it was great. And I met so many women from, oh my gosh, this is why my book was an international bestseller. I had women from Australia and the UK, and I mean, my gosh, Argentina and Canada, and they were all over. And I would love to travel and see them all as well. So.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your light today. And I'm so excited to dive back in. So thank you. And
thank you for having me.
Good luck with everything. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Heal Podcast. Be sure to tune in for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. Oh, and make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And if you feel inspired, we would love you to rate and review us so that we have the opportunity to reach more people. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram for some behind-the-scenes fun and more inspiration at @HealDocumentary and @KellyGorris. Thank you so much, and be well.